I had been principal for about 6 years, and when we first, in the very beginning, we had freedom of choice. We did not have full integration, and for about 2 years, that students could transfer over to the high school, to the white school, if they wanted to. And we had 3 students who did that for about 2 years. And then when we had the order from Judge Justice, the whole state needed to integrate, and so we prepared for it. And I didn't have a secretary, and Mr. Burton, the black principal, did not have a secretary, and so they looked for someone who would want to work a half day in the high school and a half day at the white school and a half day at the black school, mm-hmm. and to work on the records and get everything and get to know the kids and whatever. So my wife said, well, she would do that. She would like to work that way, so that's what we did. She worked half day for Mr. Burton and a half day for me, and we prepared for integration doing that, but making sure we had all the student records straight, and then of course the year prior to, or the spring prior to integration in the fall, well, I had all the kids to register, and we filled out registration cards and choices of classes and whatever, and so that the first day would not be that traumatic for everybody. And I had everything marked so that then students would know what room to go to and which teacher, and if they had any questions and whatever. And so we fully integrated. It was the smoothest transition of that magnitude that you'd expect. Mm-hmm. The kids were great. The black students were exceptionally well behaved and everything. Everyone just went to school, and that was it. and that's what we had on our mind. That's all. We'll go to school, and and I give credit to Mr. Burton, the black school principal. Mm-hmm. He was great, and he taught me a lot of things about how to deal with students. Period. And I had never been around black students before in a school situation, mm-hmm. but it was no different from anything else. We had one incident along about prom time. We had a student who asked another to go to the prom, and the brothers got mad about it, and there was this, well, not a fight over it, but a lot of fussing about it. And but comes graduation night, though, no problems. Everything was great. The students came in and worked hard, and the teachers. We had some great black teachers too, mm-hmm. as well as great white teachers. They all worked together on it. And we had good athletes on both sides, and they went together, in football and basketball. And some of the black kids had never played football before, but they fell right in there. Coach Lawrence was the coach, and he made them feel at home, and they did good. Miss Clara Kay was one of the teachers and coaches. And Clara had been a national champion, and she won the national championship in singles when she was was going to the black school. Mr. Burton was a tennis coach, and he did a great job with them. That was the tennis and basketball was their main sports at the black school. I feel like that integration in Hawkins was probably as easy as anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's just because of the people, the black parents and the white parents and the kids. Nobody fussed and fought. I mean, it's just that they might not have just hugged each other every day or anything like that, but they were friends and got along well.
Jesse Graham.
All right, Jesse. Where and when did integration start?
Here at Hawkins in 1966.
1966.
What was it like before the integration?
We didn't really, except work together off and on. There wasn't much contact between the people.
What was it like after and during?
Yeah, it was pretty calm because most people worked around each other or knew each other for most of their life here, being in a small town, a community.
How did the community react?
Really didn't make any changes to the community.
When did you start doing sports and extracurricular activities together?
In 1966, football.
Football first?
Yeah.
What about other activities, just school related?
Basketball and other sports.
Do you have any items or stories from the time?
I've got some newspaper clippings from when I played football.
Any stories from when you guys finally got into one school? Or how did that come about?
It was government is the one that made it mandatory.
A mandatory joining?
Yes. The black kids had their own school prior to that, and it was new. And our school had been remodeled about a year and a half before that.
All right.
So we all went to the same school, the older school, until they built a new one about 4 years later.
Is that where the school is now?
That's where everybody went to after that.
So it's pretty clean. No one really made any trouble over it?
No. And like I said, the people in the community already knew each other, worked around each other. My parents had a service station, and most of the people bought gas or come by that I went to school with.
Thank you very much.
The bus driving, how was that?
Well, it was fine.
It wasn't when we first integrated, not the first day.
So I thought I was just subbing for someone till they came back, and I think I drove about 8 months then that year, and so the next year somebody had been driving and decided they were going to get out of teaching, so there was or get out of the school system, so there was a vacancy. And I was hired for that, and that turned out to be the bus route that's over on the south side of town, where almost all of the pupils were black students. But I didn't notice really any difference driving that bus and the other one. It's just, you had a certain routine you followed every day.
So you mentioned that the students were all very well-mannered and polite.
Yes. Now, when you say all the students, all the black students were, I remember them as just being very cooperative. Almost all the all my teaching career, almost all the students were just pretty good. There were problems, in 34 years, there might have been problems, but not serious, and it was not racially, didn't have anything to do with that.
How was all of the athletics during the school whenever it all meshed together?
Well, the black school had not had a football team. They participated in basketball, baseball, tennis, and I really think track. I can't be sure about that, but so they had really good basketball team, and had a very this Mr. Burton, the principal, did a good portion of the coaching, and he coached tennis, and he would take students wherever the tournament was, and he had a student who still lives here,
Miss Clara Kay.
Clara Kay. Has
Is
she
on the
ever?
city council. Do you know her?
The name is
Okay.
familiar.
Well, she was a national champion in the
In tennis.
Oh, wow.
competition
Under Mr.
that
Burton's
she.
coaching.
And so when we first integrated, well, we had some young men that were really good, and just right off, two of them, Lee Amos won, and Adrian Lanier went to Austin, won state easy enough.
Doubles.
And I think this Adrian then, besides, they won doubles, and I think this Adrian won singles also, and that might have been the next year that he won that. So I suspect if you inquire, they didn't know about foot. You know, they hadn't ever participated in football in the lower grades, and they didn't really know what to expect. But they did participate because it came in the fall before basketball, and that was just kind of the custom. If you know, we support everything. If you're physically up to it, we want you. And so after that first year, well, we started having some exceptionally good athletes in football as well as in basketball and other places.
We had some good basketball teams. And something I noticed, I looked in the yearbooks, the first year, say in the activities, and when they elected class officers and class favorites and class personalities, it, you know, was usually they voted along racial lines, and because there were more white students, that first year you don't see very many of those
Well,
students.
they didn't know each other's names. That was part of the problem.
I
They didn't
know
know
that.
each other.
But by the second and third and fourth year, it evens out a lot more, and they were most intellectual was Cecil Clift, and I just saw, and Ronald Rutherford was always, he was the best citizen, or he was the class favorite or class officer, because there were just the Rutherford children, and he had a large family, but then he has all those cousins. Coach Condi is his cousin, and her dad, and they were just assets, and they were recognized right away. We feel blessed at how integration went with our school, but we give credit to Dr. Harmon, the superintendent that we told you about, who was far-seeing, to Mr. Burton, the black principal. He was wise, and he had been a good disciplinarian, and he prepared those students before they ever came over here. But Mr. John Moore, Coach, he was always Coach Moore to us because he had been a coach before he was principal. And when I hear people say Coach Moore now, I think, you don't know him.
You don't know Coach Moore.
But Mr. John Moore was so good in establishing a trust between him and the black students, and of course white students already knew him, And he just had a way of disciplining, but also befriending.
The school's board, and probably like a lot of other school boards around, they were trying to figure a way to not integrate the systems because they knew the federal regulations were coming down. So they thought, well, the black kids have got an old school. They thought, well, let's just build them a new school. So I don't know if you guys are aware of all this history, but when you go into the elementary school,
Right.
okay, that was the new black school. It was called Hawkins Southside. I think that at the black school before integration, we had real good facilities as compared to other black schools. So I was going off playing other schools. So I would think Hawkins was in pretty good shape facility-wise at the black school. Predecessor of all this was what they call freedom of choice. Freedom of choice meant that if you were a white kid, you want to go to black school, you could come over there and go. I think it was just some last-ditch efforts to try to appease the people before that ruling came out that you had to integrate.
Right.
So we had, I think, 4 kids that were black. None white came to the black school, but 4 black kids, I think, went to the white school. We retained about 3/4 of our teachers and maybe a handful of coaches, a couple of coaches, I guess. So we didn't really have the basketball training that we'd had before to keep our skills up, maybe, but we were still pretty good in basketball. We had, I think, 1 starter maybe from the white school, and there was 4 blacks, and that was kind of hard back then to go to a school system and see 4 blacks starting because that was kind of we don't want we want that this first year of integration. And in football, we meshed in a lot cleaner. Take long to learn Coach Lawrence's plays because everybody say they only had 3. But our fullback and 2 halfbacks and the quarterback, which was Coach Lawrence's son, was the quarterback and fullback were all state, and the 2 halfbacks were all district. So I tell people, if you just wonder whether or not we had a good football team, just picture this: at the end of the season, these guys were on the 400-meter relay team that won second in state. So wow, that just tell you, when you got a 400-meter relay team and all of them in the backfield, and you win second in Austin, Texas, and that 400-meter relay, I'll never forget that. And I thought, man, anybody that touches the ball in the backfield is dangerous. Kind of want to go on record of saying this, and sometimes I'm real kind of want to hold back from saying it, but when I think about Big Sandy and their history of football, but let me say this. Prior to that integration, right around integration, 67, 68, Big Sandy could never be Hawkins. I really, I don't know all that's going on now, but I just think it was more togetherness with black and white kids back then than it is now. Because in 69, we had a couple of cafes. But I mean, after football games, the kids on the football team, black and white, we all came up there and ate hamburgers and hung out and stuff like that. Wow. So a lot of my rides home and friends of mine, we rode home with white kids that had clothes. It was some pretty good times. I mean, the football team kept us pretty close, I think. Yeah. And for the most part, you still had your problems, but I think they were more kind of. I think more people were willing to accept and willing to get along than you would have imagined, than I would have imagined. And you growing up in the town all your life, this other kid, say that you were playing with, grew up in the town all your life, just that you didn't go to church together, you didn't go to school together. But once you started to find it out, well, he lives right over here. Oh, yeah, we walk over there sometimes. Then maybe you stop by and talk to him because before you didn't know him. I guess you'd have to say it was just a learning experience for both sides. We were learning their ways, they were learning our ways. And all in all, there were some incidents here and there, but I think it went pretty well. So far as, people getting along, people learning how different cultures mesh and stuff like that. But as for a black kid, I suppose it would have been quite a bit different. We were the Dragons, For 10 years it was Go Dragons. And all of a sudden somebody said, okay, now you need to go to assembly and say Go Hawks. So that was just a really kind of a funny feeling to have 10 years under your belt of saying, school pride, school colors, everything changed just overnight, But people are people. When you think about it, we were just so blessed to have good instructors, black and white, that seemed to not make a big deal of the fact that the blacks and whites were getting together. I know Miss Kirk for one, and Ms. Hines, Coach Lawrence, it's just people that really made us feel comfortable. And the environment for learning was just so great. I just feel like I was just blessed to be in a situation where people, they didn't really seem to care that much about the color of your skin. They wanted to see kids that wanted to learn. And man, once you show that that you had a desire to learn, then to me, we just become best friends. I mean, if you could be best friends with teachers, because they wanted to teach and man, we wanted to learn. So that was a pretty good combination.
It was two students, and it was Charles McIntosh and his sister, Barbara McIntosh. They were the first of the integration that we saw in the elementary. And then in 1967, that's when we consolidated and we moved into the elementary school over here. And our schools had always been back over on the north side or whatever, of the tracks, whatever. And the blacks, their school was on this side of the tracks. In 67, all junior high was over here. And everything just seemed to work real well, not the conflictions that you would see maybe in the bigger cities and whatever, where they were having a lot of conflictions or whatever. Of course, there would be groups that would rile just a little bit, but nothing real big, everybody seemed to get along great. We had all had white teachers. I'm sure they had black teachers. And whenever we all came together, but the teaching was still the same. I mean, you had no problems with that. It tried to do what the teachers would ask, and you know how kids are. They'll pull pranksters on the teachers. By the time we got into high school, it was just everyday deal, your best friends were blacks. Yeah. And it was a great deal because we didn't know them, and then once you get to know them, hey, they're just people just like we are, and we all got along great. At the entrance of this place is not like it used to be. It used to come over the railroad tracks, and there where that oil-looking side is, it would turn right there, go down, make a sharp turn right behind that, then turn and go here, and then just another 90 and come on up to the school and then on in just like it normally is now. There was no administration building, no high school, no middle school, and the elementary was not near as big as it is now. So you can look at the stucco walls that's over at the elementary, and you can nearly see right where the flagpole is at. The building part that's right in front of the flagpole, that used to just be grass. It was just two long buildings like this coming out. And then the cafeteria and the gymnasium are original, but they were down at the far end, That was it. That was all of it. But anyway, it was nice. It was a real nice building. It was something new. And in fact, I can say this. We didn't have air conditioning until we moved over here. Once we moved over here, they had air conditioning, so the rest of the schools went air conditioning. There where Head Start's at used to be our 7th and 8th grade wood shop. That used to be a wood shop right there, and Mr. Hathcox taught that. So it's made some changes. Yeah. It's made some changes. It was pretty good, and I can't remember a whole lot of bad times then,
Here's to alma mater, dear old Hawkins High. We will ever honor thee as the years go by. Blue and white, we love thee, colors brave and true. Here's to alma mater, Hawkins, hail to you.
My name is Ricky Charles Rutherford. I'm 64 years old. I've lived in Hawkins all my life. I started school in 1955, and the school was called Hawkins Colored High School. And then, I don't remember the exact year, the name was changed to Falk Hawkins High School because of the Falk community, which is west of town out there. And then, just before schools integrated, we had Hawkins Southside, which was the new school that was built. It's, right across the deal over here is where the new school was. And it was built in I think we started there in it was 1966. Maybe it was half semester of 66. I remember coming back from Christmas vacation, and when the bus crossed the track, instead of going to the colored school, to Falk Hawkins School, we turned and came into the new school. Everybody just cheered because we had a new school finally. The school's integrated in 1968. I was in the last segregated class, which was 1967. When we graduated the next year, the school's completely integrated. The 2 years prior to 68, you had a choice. You could either go to the white school or you could stay at the black school. During that time period, we had 3 students that elected to go to the white school. 2 young ladies and 1 guy. And 2 girls were the smartest girls in school, in our school. And the guy was not the smartest. He wanted to play football. We didn't have a football team, so they went to the white school. During that time period, in Hawkins, I ate in the back of many a cafe. Even at the service station, they had 3 bathrooms. They had the men, women, and colored. So you had to be careful not to go into the white bathroom. Then you go to the cafe, you'd have to go around back and eat in the back of the cafe. So you couldn't go in the front. When integration happened, those things started to change. I remember buying a hamburger at Petty's in the back and taking it around to the front and going in and eating it because they would not serve me in the front. So we just bought it in the back and went around and went in the front door and ate. Those were difficult times. But when you look at it, we ate in the back. All the cooks were black, so we got big plates. So they would have to be careful not to let the manager see us, but we got big plates. We got better service in the back than we did in the front. It should have happened earlier. There never should have been that way, but that's the way the world. And but I will say this: you don't miss what you never had. In a sense that some people would say, "Man, I'm sorry you guys had a hard life, and you were segregated." We had a great life. I mean, we didn't miss going in the front of the cafe because we never went in front of it. I mean, we never been in the front of the cafe, but eating in the cafe. So it was like something we didn't know about. So we were not upset about it. I enjoyed growing up. I had white friends, and during that time period, you just have to be careful what you say and what you do. But the kids didn't see color until they were taught that. You get 2 little kids together, they play with each other like this is another kid. Church is still segregated. The white church, the black church. If God came to Hawkins and said, "Where are my people? Where are my children?" He said, "Well, my white people in the white church and my black people in the black church." And it's by choice. It's not by, and the churches do extend hands out and try to, I think our Hawkins churches, they try, but there's just something about church that is just segregated, and it shouldn't be that way, and God doesn't appreciate that his children are segregated, and by choice.